Hello, wonderful viewers. Welcome back on the Hour Show with myself, Patricia, and my co-host, Andy. Today we have a very wonderful guest on our show. Her name is Hosli Cinder. She's a very beautiful young lady living with HIV. Today we're going to talk to her. She's going to educate us more on HIV. She's going to let us understand what it is, how you are able to live with it, have a normal life, and all the questions that we need to know about HIV today. Our lady here is going to help us. And she is a former Miss Congo as well. So we have a beauty pageant in our midst today. It's a pleasure to meet you, my darling.
Thank you for having me.
You're very beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay. Hosli, we would like to know how you got HIV. And before then, please explain to us what HIV is about, what it is.
So I was born HIV positive.
Okay.
And I was told when I was 11 years old. And so HIV stands for human immunodeficiency virus, which just means that naturally our immune system can fight viruses, flus, and all of that. But once you contract HIV, if you live in HIV, your normal immune system can no longer fight the virus.
Okay.
So you have to live on medication or ARV to be specific. So that's what HIV is.
How did you discover that you were HIV positive?
So it was actually firstly a normal visit to the hospital.
Okay.
So basically it was at 10 years old. My mum would start giving me medication every single day before I went to school, and at that time I was in primary school. So I was taking those every day, and she just told me it was vitamins.
Okay.
Then one day, I think when I turned 11 years old, one day we went to the doctors, and I thought it was another day
Normal
to just
visit,
exactly, to the hospital. But this time it was different because I saw my mother. She stayed behind, and the doctors, or the nurse actually, took me in. And she sat me down. She started explaining to me what HIV is, what it does to the body. And then I remember it was a very small room. And then she just kept on going. And then she paused, and I asked her, so does that mean I have it?
Yeah, hold on a minute. Just to bring you back.
Mm-hmm.
At the age of 10, you discovered your mother was giving you things like, what precisely was she giving you?
She was giving me ARVs. So
is that the name of the medication?
Yeah, that's the names of HIV. So anyone that's HIV positive, they take ARV. So it stands for antiretrovirals.
Okay.
And it starts for more different doses because depending on in which, I wouldn't use the word spectrum. It depends on which level you're at, because they can't just give you any medication, because everybody that's HIV positive is on different medication. It's still the same thing, but it's different medication. So when I was 10 years old, I started taking a liquid medication.
Okay. Were you not taken to the hospital? Your mom just started giving it to you?
No. I was taken to a hospital.
Yeah.
I remember talking to a hospital last time. It started with like scanning and blood test and all of that, just to ensure that if I was HIV positive or not. And then that's when the medication, because it wouldn't be right to give medication.
So obviously nobody at that first point told you that you had something.
No.
So going back to that. So you went back at 11?
Yeah, I turned 11 years old, because I think it was literally, I was 10 years old, but I was turning 11 years old.
Okay.
So, and then at 11... So
before 10 years, didn't you witness anything in your
Did I feel anything?
Did you not feel anything?
Not at all, because with HIV, once you contract HIV sexually, sometimes the virus doesn't really show in your body at all. So to say, let's say someone has contracted HIV or had unprotected sex, for example, and they went to the doctors and they'll do the test, it comes negative, but then they'll tell them to come back again after 3 weeks. I think it's 3 weeks. I'm not necessarily on that. I think it's 3 weeks, just to make sure that there's still nothing there, or 3 weeks or 3 months, I think. So with me, because I was born HIV positive, I wouldn't say that it wasn't showing in my system. It was there in my body, but because I was born, I was in Congo, because we found out when we moved to the UK. So I would say it could have been prevented from mother to child, because we all know mother to child transmission is through breastfeeding and blood and all of that. It could have been prevented if my mother knew, but she didn't know herself. So
your mother didn't know she herself had HIV?
Yeah, she didn't know.
Okay.
So at that time, I didn't know anything.
So what you're trying, I'm trying to get to a point that those who contracted sexually, it could probably be evidenced quite earlier.
It could be.
Whereas those born with it could stay, because for 10 years you were
not
with
necessarily it. Because don't forget, we hear, well, I'm not sure, but in articles we hear in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Congo, a child is HIV positive from they know from the age of 6 months old. Because don't forget, nowadays, if you're pregnant in some countries, you get tested and all of that to make sure that the mother does not pass on or pass it on to the child. With me, that test wasn't done. So I didn't know that. And so living without any medication for 10 years. Yeah, so that means my immune system was strong. Yeah, strong. Okay. So the word for it is an elite controller. So what an elite controller is that your immune system or your red and white blood cells are able to kind of, the disease hasn't spread so much for it to make you weak, your immune system very weak. So you're basically living fine. You don't look sick at all, because I can show you pictures of me when I was young. I didn't look sick. I didn't look like underweight. I was a normal child. I went to school, came back. There was nothing
at no
at
point
all.
were you ever sick?
I was sick.
And you probably quite seriously sick that you cast your mind back on today and say, oh, it could have been some of the...
The only one that I can recall is when I was 8 years old in Congo, because we moved to the UK when I was 9. I think it was 7 years old. I had like this spots kind of appearing on my skin, like my hands mainly, and but it was cured.
Is that one of the symptoms?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It could have been. It could not be. It could have been something, dirty water or something that I drank. But we were not sure. I was never really a child that was in a hospital anyway. I was well.
Just a healthy.
Yeah, I was a healthy child.
Okay.
So the only thing, for example, like a cough, every child gets a cold or cold. For example, I don't know what they call it in English, but for example, if you're walking without shoes and you get this thing on your leg and have to take it out, I forgot what it's called. I don't know what it's called.
That water, the worms in water, isn't it?
Yeah, and then you have to literally peel it and take it off, and it's like a white little smoke. Yeah, that's the one I remember, but I don't recall ever being sick 6 months in hospital or 5 months getting sick, vomiting, looking frail. No, I don't. There was nothing. Even when we came to UK, there was nothing.
Okay, so when let's get back into 11 years.
Yeah.
You're back into the hospital because running timeline.
Yeah.
Your nurse told you your mother was there, or your mother was...
No, she wasn't there. She was outside.
And what exactly did the nurse tell you? Because you're quite young at the time.
Yeah, I was very young. So she started explaining to me how some people are born with HIV and what HIV does to the body. Very, very, very scientific things that or medical terms that
which you didn't really understand at the time.
I didn't understand at the time. But it was just, she started explaining to me, HIV does this, and then she used obviously immune deficiency virus. People are born with it, people contract it. It does this. Sometimes you feel weak. Sometimes just normal terms, trying to break it down to 11-year-old.
So did you know then that you had it, or she thought you knew and she was explaining to you what it is about?
I think if you go to the doctors, it's like if a woman, if you get pregnant, for example, they have to tell you how your child is like. Yeah. Despite you not understanding the medical terms that they have, you have to know, it's within your rights to know what illness you have. So that's what she was. She was telling me what it was first, and then she broke it down to that I had it and I was born.
How did you feel it coming from the health professional instead of your parents?
Instead of my parents. I think it must have been a difficult thing to tell your child at 11 years old. I've met children, 1 or 2, who are born HIV positive, and the parents say, it's difficult to disclose it to your child. And I even met, I was actually in a campaign last year with camps, so Catholic AIDS positive. There was a woman that I met, she was also HIV positive, and she told me she has a friend that's HIV positive, and she's been living for 30 years, and her children don't know that she's HIV positive.
So you got up, I mean, after the nurse told you, you met your mother.
Yeah.
How was it like? Did you feel going back home? How was the whole sentiment like?
So to really picture the whole day, you sat down, and just from the way she spoke, I knew it was something serious.
But you didn't really understand what it was.
I knew what it was based on what I've heard and hearsay in the Congolese community.
What did you think it was? That you're going to die?
Yeah,
it was a death sentence for you.
That's what you hear all the time.
Yeah. Okay.
If you're, especially because there's a difference between HIV and AIDS.
Yeah.
But whereas the community I come from, people associate HIV and AIDS as the same thing. Because you die of AIDS, you don't die of HIV. So when I heard that, immediately I remember my thoughts went back to a movie that I watched on TV, the Congolese film, and they were talking about how, this person has AIDS, this person has, in French usually it says SIDA, and this person has SIDA, and you're gonna die. So that's just what I knew, and I was like, so I'm gonna die.
Is that the question you asked your mother?
No, I didn't. We never had this discussion.
About it.
So going back home, because I would be quite, I would be quite traumatized because from there going back home, you're a young child. Your imagination was,
you're going to die.
I'm going to die. What sort of communication did you have with your mother? Because she should probably have contained your emotion at the time, being young at that age.
I think I can't remember the exact thing, but I just remember that I went home and I cried because of what I knew of what it was. But then eventually my mum was more kind of supportive in terms of making sure I took my medication, making sure I was well, as any mother would.
So now from then you knew those tablets were not multivitamins, as mum was saying.
No, they were not vitamins.
Were they now different from at 11?
Yeah.
So you now know it, the second phase of it.
Yeah.
The same medication, was it different from when you were 10?
No, it was completely different. So the medication that I first took were liquid. Because they don't give you tablet to swallow. So it was liquid. And I also remember going to, from age of 10 to 15, I went to children's hospital and I hated it. I hate going to children's hospital and running around. And now I'm becoming a teenager. So I was in a different medication from when I was 10. From when I was 10 to 11, I was different medication. And when I turned, I think, 12 to 15, I was basically taking 3 tablets a day. But then after that, it was just 2 tablets a day. But now they're actually moving into 1 tablet a day. So.
Okay, so the doses and everything changes as well as you grow.
Yeah, it changes as you grow. Also based on your immune system, based on what your body can take. Because some people, basically, I'm in the medication that I'm in is the first provided. Meaning, when I say first, it means it's like different sets. It's like up to like 5.
Yeah.
So, for example, someone who's also HIV positive can take the medication I am with, but it won't work on them. It will probably make them more sick.
Okay.
Because their immune system doesn't accept it. So they have to try the second one. And if the second one doesn't work, they have to try the third one. And if the third doesn't work, the 4th into the 5th.
So would it come a time yours could disappear? It's the first stage, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because your immune system is strong. Could it be a point that if you should stop taking it, it will probably, your immune system will support it? Or you must continue?
You have to take it every day, but once because what happens is with when you're on the right medication for you and you've been on it for a long time, not long time, consistently, you become undetectable. And I think a lot of people don't know that term. So basically, undetectable means that you can't pass on the virus to someone who's HIV, who's negative.
Okay.
You cannot
pass
on. No, you cannot at all.
Okay.
So
even without using a condom, you can't.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
I see. So it means you can have a baby without having an issue.
Yeah, you can have a baby. I can have a child that's when I have my children, they're not going to be HIV
positive. Should you miss a tablet 1 or 2 days? What happens?
Nothing happens.
Nothing?
No,
just like
nothing.
A normal...
Yeah, because sometimes you just say, come home and I fell asleep. Because I take at 10 or 11 in the morning. I just fall asleep and I forgot. I don't become any weak or anything. But I think the consistency of you taking your medication,
it's
it helps you. It's very important. Yeah, it helps you as a person, and because you're not undetectable. You know, if you missed one day or something, I wouldn't advise it if you missed 1 day or 2 days that you forgot, or you forgot to take your medication maybe when you were traveling. You know, it's not going to have a huge effect. But if you did start, for example, let's say you contracted HIV and you've just started your course is very important that you stick to it. You stick to it, exactly.
Okay. I mean, we are going to get into the psychological aspect of things. I'm quite thrilled how you have excelled through the years, looking beautiful as you are, going to, you know, stand for a beauty pageant contest and you won.
Yeah.
It's quite brave of you. You've done tremendously well, because I believe a lot of people have researched, and from my producers, a lot struggle. They combine this sort of illnesses with alcohol and drugs, which even makes it worse.
Yeah.
Would you give credit to your parents for containing your emotions?
I'll give credit to my mother for being such a spiritual individual she is, for having so much faith. And I'll give credit to my pastor as well, because he was there for us. Because in our church, no one knew at all around this time until last year, basically, when I won the pageant, and everyone, you know, because the story was on BBC, so everyone was on a smartphone, and so everyone knew. It's not something to hide anymore. But the two reasons I give credit to those two people in my life, because yes, it does have a psychological effect. Anything has anything you know deep has a psychological effect towards you.
Your teachers in school, were they aware? Nobody was aware of the situation.
No, I didn't tell anybody. Because now that I've started campaigning, I've met people, or I've heard stories where people have told somebody in their school, for example. I've heard people who've been bullied in school for having HIV. I remember being in school and we did a play on HIV, and no one knew, and I was the one who was HIV positive in the play.
What a coincidence.
What a coincidence. But I remember we had this, our drama teacher told us years before, there was a certain student in a school that I went to that was HIV positive, and the teacher said it out loud, and that student left school. She didn't want to come back anymore because it was an all-girls school. So you can imagine it's something that's deep, and it's not people don't have the understanding of it, so you just can't disclose it to anyone because you don't know how they'll react. People have different mentality of it.
Others will even, stay far away from you. No physical contact at all.
Exactly, and it still happens still today. I think you have to get through life to stand and say you're healthy, you're fine.
Let's get into your lifestyle now. Okay, moving on. Lifestyle.
Yeah.
How now you broke the news to the public. How are you being welcomed? How are you being received and accepted in your community? In the white community, probably quite friendly. They're quite. In your African Congolese people, how do they accept you?
So I disclosed my status firstly to the people who were running the pageant. I think it was October 2016, and then I disclosed it the day of the show. I told nobody. Didn't tell my family. Didn't tell my friends. Didn't tell my mom. Didn't tell no one. Not even the people in the pageant that I was gonna go on stage. I thank God for how the people in the media as well talk the story, like the public, because we all know as African people, HIV is not something we talk about. And we all know as well there's so much stigma and discrimination, attached to it. Therefore, I always say, thank God, because the story could have went completely wrong. Because I remember the article when the story went viral. It was meet the new Miss Congo UK, who is something changing. Something about her illness, but it didn't say HIV, just said her illness. And then if you open the link, and then it says that. But I'm glad the public were positive, and also people in the community were positive. But I think there's different ways I've looked into that. I think because I was born HIV positive, and I think that's the difference. If I contracted HIV
through sex,
it
would have been
a completely different story.
But why is that? I mean,
it's
Pat,
kind
why
of people tend to sympathize with you more because you were born with it. If it was sexually,
but
then
people get into it without knowing. So why are they blamed for it?
It's because we have a taboo about sex in the African community.
Yes.
And as a young woman, like, you're expected to be a virgin until you're married. But that's not always the case. We all know there's a lot of people who were not necessarily virgin when they got married. People
get abused, people get raped. So many
things happen. And I think that's what it is. I'm not disagreeing that sex is something that's sacred. I agree with that absolutely as a Christian. But I think don't forget, a lot of people have got into relationships and things happen, they contract HIV, and the first thing we do is blame.
And one thing that we should also remember, you get it through having multiple partners. So let's say, as a woman, you become very unfortunate with relationship, and then you keep having a relationship where, it doesn't work, you go to another man, it doesn't work, and it doesn't work. And then eventually, because you've been with so many, like, let's say 4 or 5 people who has possibly been elsewhere as well, and then you contract HIV. I don't think we should be blamed for it.
I think that's
why can't they have safe sex? What's wrong with using a condom?
There's because I do a lot of work in the African community, and a lot of times the black men said they don't like using condoms.
Well, then they go.
That's another thing.
I think it's about it's about time. It's about time that women especially get to stand up for themselves. That it's either you protect me, you protect yourself, or we don't do nothing.
But it's not just women. I'm gonna stand and also protect men here.
Men.
But no, I'm saying that because it's men that usually don't want to use the condom.
But women can pass it on to. So you have to.
And even when women, we have women condoms now.
Okay.
Even when a woman
wants to. So why don't you also like using it? Why don't like using the women? I hardly hear of it. Why is that?
No one likes using it.
Why is that?
Probably because it looks different. It's a bit uncomfortable.
How different? How is it uncomfortable? I mean,
let's not go into that. Let's the plot.
Let's get serious. Okay. What motivated you to come out publicly?
I think first of all, life and the journey. But one thing that's certain is when I went to volunteer in South Africa. Because in 2016, a lot was happening. I was finishing second year, and I wasn't doing well in second year. Everything was just deep, and I was just like, I want to get away from so many things. So I applied to volunteer to go. I really wanted to go away from things. But I said, hey, let me apply to ICS, so International Citizen Services, so I can volunteer, learn more about African development, because I always wanted to work in African developments, but I didn't know how. My whole perception was, Africa, we're going to do this, but you can't do it without skills.
Without skills,
So when I went there, and one of the objectives is, or one of the things that they speak about, that they work on, is HIV and AIDS in South Africa. Because don't forget, South Africa has the highest epidemic in the whole world. And Nigeria is actually the second in Sub-Saharan Africa.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I thought it's mostly South. Okay.
It's the second, in the Sub-Saharan Africa. So when we were there, we spoke about sexual reproductive health, we spoke about rape, we spoke about livelihood, really, engaging the youth with things that they're tackling with in the communities that they live in. So and no one knew my status. I didn't tell no one my status at all, except for the organization, because I was taking a few medications, and I thought it would be important that only the people who
needs
organize
to know.
it, they need to know, so that if anything happens, I
You're
can,
safe.
Exactly. So when I was there, after just my own observation, I saw people. There were loads of students who were HIV positive, not just HIV, they have TB, and tuberculosis kills as well very fast. So teaching about HIV and the questions that we got back from the students. For example, we'll have a workshop, because we were facilitators, we're not teachers. We would ask the students to write like a little notes for us, something that they learned in the class, something they didn't understand, whether they liked us, whether, for example, I was a UK volunteer, so perhaps I spoke too fast. And we would take those notes back, and when we read it with the volunteers who were South African, and a lot of the time within those notes, the students will write something like, I have a friend that's HIV positive. My friend who's 14 years old has a sugar daddy, because that's also huge in South Africa. Sugar daddies, young girls getting sugar daddies because of money or provision. So And they will say, oh, my sister has HIV, or what is the difference between HIV and AIDS? How do you contract HIV? And when I read it, I said, no one will ever say, I'm HIV positive. Mm-hmm. And it was literally, and I felt like there are students in this class who are HIV positive.
Yeah.
And how we also knew about that is because one day we went to a, we're teaching in the school, can't disclose the school right now, one of the schools that way we taught, and one of the teachers started asking what we were doing there. After like 2 months we were there, she asked us, what are you guys doing here? We're like, we're volunteering. We've been in your school for 2 months and now you're asking us. But she told me something that day and it blew my mind. She said, because in South Africa, many people don't go to clinics because of HIV, because they don't want people in the community to know. So rather
they'll just
die in silence. And she told us, so what happened is if if people don't go to nurses, the nurses go to schools. Mm-hmm. Just to do normal checkups with some of the students, the healthcare basically. And she said one day we had a student and we looked at her and we realized that she took her jumper off and her whole skin was full of spots. And it wasn't just normal spots that you get. It was like if you touched it, it would be it would hurt. And it was blood everywhere and she was covered and she went to school like that every single day.
Covered in blisters?
Yeah, blisters. So they took her to a clinic and then they found that she was HIV positive and I asked her, how are you living? She said, I live with my auntie, but my auntie doesn't give me no medication. And I said...
So she knew she was HIV positive?
Yeah, she knew she was HIV positive. She said, my parents have died of AIDS. My auntie doesn't give me medication and sometimes we don't have food at home. And if you're HIV positive, nutrition is very, very important, especially if you're in the beginning, the first
early
steps.
Stages.
Yeah, you need to eat well, you need to drink well, because everything works together for a whole body, right? So when I heard that, I just remember hearing it in the car. I said, whoa, how privileged am I, to have free healthcare, free medication, to eat well. I can do anything.
And society accepting you for who you are.
Exactly.
Good.
But there are people... not just society not accepting them, but the healthcare is a crisis. Deprived. And poverty plays a huge role to a lot of African countries, especially the sub-Saharan Africa, Congo, in fact. Poverty plays a huge... and education. So it goes to say that some people are HIV positive. For example, there's a new movie I'm going there as a guest to speak on, the movie on women living with HIV. And this particular woman, the character, she walks very far to go to the clinic to get her medication. But whereas she has a clinic nearby, but she chooses not to go to that one because she doesn't want people
the community will know.
Exactly. So you have that,
So is that what touched you to come out publicly?
It did, because I felt like there's...
something is not
people
right.
deserve to live.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the beauty pageant, was it all linked to that in terms of coming out boldly? Were you trying to go through that road to get that awareness out?
Yeah.
Was that your main mission?
Yeah. So when I came back from volunteering, I came back, I think it was 27th of September 2016. I joined the beauty pageant beginning of October. Basically, my thought was, okay, I'm going to join. I'm not going to tell anyone my status, including, because they didn't know me, I don't know them. And then on the day of the show, that's when I'll say everything. And then it was like God was telling me, you know how your commute is like. What if it goes very wrong? Yeah. So, and then I disclosed it to them first. But I also went on tour with Youth Stop AIDS. And I think I learned a lot of policies, campaigning. It equipped me on skills, on campaigning, because I myself didn't know much about HIV and AIDS as well. But I learned it through volunteering and just doing voluntary work, and it enabled me to be educated, to educate myself.
I think you've done a very good job.
Thank you. So,
and the fact that you got yourself equipped before coming out to speak out.
I think it was, Yeah.
So you were more prepared.
Yeah.
And then more prepared for the unknown as well.
Yeah.
In terms of how people would accept you, how the community will see you and all that.
Yeah, I didn't know, I think it was just, God's grace. I would say God's favor was definitely upon me throughout the whole journey, because going to South Africa, my intention wasn't to disclose my status either. Right. It was just to learn generally, about the work that was done in Africa, so also to help me as an artist. but I think with every decision you make in life, it teaches you something. So whilst I was there, I literally, and I took time for myself because I was going through a lot as well, a lot of pain, things, questions around that time in my life. And I think God really opened my eyes to many different lives in South Africa, not just HIV. We're talking people who are eating, their food is just tea and bread every single day. And I'm like, what if that person's HIV positive?
You went through that courageous moment, being a beauty pageant. You said former now, and you were bellying it because you are still from 2000. You won it in 2007. You were 17. You were crowned.
Oh, quite recent.
And just about a new one starting, you're saying bye bye. I don't want your crown anymore. Why is that? Why have you decided to do that?
You've dropped the crown?
I quit because I think it's nothing personal. I think I got to the place where I wanted to take control of, not take control, but make my own decisions. And I think if you're in a public eye on behalf of people, it becomes almost like you're
restricted.
You need to follow certain policies.
And I didn't mind,
it's not that you were being rebellious.
But no, I wasn't being rebellious. But I think, especially when the year started, 2018, I said, no, like, we have our, what's it called, 2018 New Year
resolutions.
I don't really do much of that. But I think I got to the point where I said, you know what? I've done a lot of campaigning work. I've done a lot of activism. I'm still an activist, even with the pageant or not with the pageant. I'm still doing activism work. You just came back from America 2 weeks ago. We were campaigning there in America, in New York. And I decided, I said, you know what, I would like to just take the journey and let God lead me and not be led by other people. And I think that's the decision I made. Nothing personal, I just said,
And you think you've made the right decision?
Definitely.
Are we expecting a wedding bell very soon?
I don't know, but God's grace.
Okay. All right, wonderful. I mean, it's been a pleasure having you on our set today. And I think as you promised to join us and on our TV platform, where you'll be hosting your own show, and I'm sure that will give you a lot of time to educate the public more on it, because we don't want you to stop the campaigning. I mean, it's almost like a forgotten sort of illness, but it's still there.
It's still there, and from where we come from, back in Africa, that is where like it's kind of you don't talk about it. Even when someone knows that, they don't even want to mention the name HIV or AIDS. They talk about by and refer it to that sickness instead of even mentioning the name. It's kind of, even if you mention the name, you're gonna get infected. There's more that we can do to educate the public.
Is there a particular place here in the UK you can have this test done? Because most people wouldn't probably want to go to. Is there like special places you have to go, or you can just
No, you can go to walk-in clinic.
You can even come to A&E.
Walk-in clinics do chlamydia, gonorrhea. They do all of this sexual, because HIV is part of STI. So
and it's free.
Go, and it's free. It's just you would think being in the UK it changes the people's perception. It actually doesn't, because although we are living in a Western society, but there are Western people who are not educated, because with Youth Stop AIDS, we've spoken in different universities. For example, we went to Leeds University in last year, 2017. We went to Sheffield University. I'll never forget this. There was a guy, one of the students, because we set up our table and everything. We're just getting people and speaking to them about what we were doing. And I remember one person, one of the activists asked this guy, he said, "Do you know your status?" He said, "I'm pretty sure I do." And we were like, "I'm pretty sure is not enough. You can't be pretty sure. You have to be sure, or you're not sure.
You're not
you
sure.
have to be sure or not sure."
Exactly.
All right. But
thank you so much. All right. Before we run up, I just want you to give a little advice to our viewers and our listeners. Just a little piece of advice.
So my advice is that ignorance kills, and ignorance is also a death, to many society and many communities. I think once you are willing to become educated in this, you realize how little you know. Like I realize how little I knew, and I'm living with HIV.
Yeah.
So my advice to the whole world, to the African community specifically, is really let's not begin to bring our traditions, our culture. I'm not disputing our traditional culture, but we are living in a time where education is a very powerful tool that you can use for yourself and for others. It helps you, it helps other people. So that one day you meet someone that's HIV positive, you're not going to be like, oh, I'm not going to share the same cup. But you're educating yourself, and that's how you build a society.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, viewers, for staying with us. What my beautiful queen here said, ignorance kills. We just need to educate ourselves. Don't let us have all this shallow-minded and, bring that attitude of our African culture. It's a beautiful culture. But please, let us open up, let us learn, let us read articles, watch TV, get experience, get tested. It's free. You get tested, you make sure you have safe sex. If you cannot, abstain from sex. I think that's the best way, if we do. And let us protect our community and our children. Thank you very much for staying with us. Keep it locked to Andidi TV. We'll see you next time. Take care. Thank you so much.